All right, today we are diving into one of the most remarkable chapters in the entire book of Genesis, chapter 10. You might know it as the Table of Nations. And look, at first glance, it can seem like just a super long list of names you can't pronounce. But it's actually something else entirely. It's an ancient blueprint, a meticulously structured map of all humanity, as the ancient world understood it.
So just imagine this for a second. The entire world has been wiped clean, totally reset. The biggest question on anyone's mind would be, what happens now? Where did all of us come from? How did we get from just one family on a boat to a whole world full of different countries, different languages, and different kingdoms? Well, Genesis 10 presents itself as the answer to that exact question.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll set the stage with the Table of Nations itself. Then, we're going to trace the three main family lines from Noah's sons, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And finally, we'll pull back to see the incredible, complete picture this ancient blueprint gives us. It's a really logical journey.
Okay, so to really get what's happening in chapter 10, we've got to rewind just a tiny bit, to the end of chapter 9. The flood is over. Noah, his wife, his three sons, and their wives are literally the only people left on the entire planet. The text is about to show us exactly how this one family repopulated the whole world.
Now this verse right here, this is basically the thesis statement for this entire chapter. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. That's it. According to this text, every single person, every tribe, every nation that has ever existed since that flood can trace its roots right back to one of these three guys. This is the single starting point for the world map we're about to unroll. All right, let's dive into the first branch of this massive family tree and see how it all starts to build out. We're going to begin with Japheth. The text is super systematic here, listing his descendants and connecting them mainly with the coastal and island regions of the ancient world. So, here are his sons. You see them listed right here. Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Now, to us, they might just seem like old names. But to an ancient reader, these were like signposts. Later on, historians would connect these names to actual groups of people, like the Medes coming from Madai, or the Greeks from Javan. And this right here, this is the key to the whole chapter. You have to pay close attention to this four-part formula, because we are absolutely going to see it again. It's sorting everyone by their families, their languages, their lands, and their nations. It's this incredibly comprehensive system for classifying all of humanity. Next up, we turn to the line of the second son, Ham. And this is where the tone shifts a little bit. It's not just a dry list of names anymore. The story actually pauses to zoom in on a few really important figures and the powerful kingdoms they built, especially down in Africa and Mesopotamia. And what's so cool here is that in the middle of all these genealogies, the text just stops. It shines a spotlight on this one guy, Nimrod. He's presented as this larger-than-life figure, a guy with immense power, a founder of cities, a true mighty one in this brand new world. I mean, his reputation was so legendary that it actually became a common saying. If you were a great hunter or a powerful leader, people would say you were like Nimrod. So he's not just a name on a list. He's this legendary figure, an archetype baked right into the text. And what was his legacy? Well, according to this, he was a city builder. His kingdom started with Babel, and you're going to want to remember that name for the next chapter, along with other foundational cities in the land of Shinar, which is basically the heart of ancient Mesopotamia. And then after the whole list of Ham's descendants is done, what do we see? That exact same formula again. This summary just reinforces the incredibly structured, almost scientific way the author is organizing the world. You see the pattern, right? It's so deliberate. Okay, now we get to the third and final branch of the family, the line of Noah's son, Shem. This lineage is a huge deal for the rest of the biblical story, because it's the one that eventually leads to Abraham. And just like with Ham's line, we find another really interesting little story nugget hidden in the names. So first, the text lays out Shem's sons, Elam, Ashur, Arpachshad, Lud, and Aram. And again, to the original audience, these names would have rung a bell. They're the ancestors of major groups like the Elamites and the powerful Assyrians. The methodical mapping of the world just keeps on going. And here we go again. Several generations down from Shem, the author hits the pause button. This time, it's for a guy named Peleg. And the text doesn't just mention his name, it makes a point to tell us that his name means something really important. For in his days was the earth divided.
The name Peleg actually sounds a lot like the Hebrew word for division. So this little cryptic phrase, it's marking a huge event in the history of the world, according to Genesis, some kind of great division or scattering that's remembered in this man's very name.
And yup, you guessed it, for the third and final time, the section wraps up with that same familiar organizing phrase. The pattern is officially complete. The author has systematically categorized all of humanity as they knew it under these three main lines, using the exact same set of labels every time.
Okay, so we've walked through each of the three branches. Let's zoom out now. What does this whole blueprint of humanity actually look like when you put it all together? What is the big picture that Genesis 10 has been painting for us?
Well, this table really sums it up perfectly. You've got Japheth's line spreading out across the coastlands and the islands. You've got Ham's line with the mighty Nimrod founding these great kingdoms to the south and in Mesopotamia. And then you have Shem's line, which is the one the Bible really focuses on, leading to Peleg and eventually to Abraham. It's a complete ethnic and geographic map of the ancient world.
So what's the point of all this? Really, this chapter is all about creating order. It looks out at this big, messy, complicated world full of different people and basically says, hold on, everyone has a place. There's a system to all this. It gives every group a name and connects them all back to a single origin. It's an amazing way of making sense of the world by mapping it out. And here they are, the 4 pillars of that whole system, repeated for each family line. Your identity is defined by your kinship, your families. It's defined by your culture, your tongues. It's defined by your geography, your lands. And it's defined by your politics, your nations. It's just an incredibly sophisticated way of defining a people's place in the world.
And then the very last verse of the chapter says it all. It's the grand finale. The text just comes right out and tells you its own purpose, to show how the world of nations was divided up and organized from the single family of Noah. The blueprint is complete. The map has been revealed.
So we'll end with a big question to think about. At its core, this chapter is a list of divisions, right? Different lands, different languages, different nations. But its whole premise is one of profound unity. It's the idea that all these very different people ultimately come from the exact same family. So what does it mean for a culture to build its entire worldview on that idea of one family that becomes many nations? That's a powerful thought to leave you with.